All right, shalom, shalom. It's Brother Yatazadak here with Israel. I'd like to start off by giving all honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Today we're going to Habbakuk chapter 3, going into the Hebrew. So Lord willing, you're edified, giving all honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Habbakuk. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. So let's get right into it. Is Habbakuk chapter 3 and verse 1, which the header of the this chapter is God's deliverance of his people, right? Because if you can recant that in chapters 1 and 2, you had a outcry of Habbakuk, right, unto the Lord, right, because of the misfortunes of Israel, right? And now basically chapter 1 and verse 2 is basically comparing Esau and the nations, right, unto fish, unto right, their work, just the Lord speaking through Habbakuk, basically condemning Esau and the nations. Mainly chapter 2, which is talking about Esau. But as you see, chapter 1 slowly eases into the nations as well, right? Now, so as chapter 2, as we went in chapter 2, it's going into Esau, how he creates Deb out of thin air, right? You have chapter 1, the ancient nations, how they have went after their own ways as well, right? Like it says in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32, I believe it's 32 or 33, right there, that their venom is the venom of asps, right? Basically, these other doctrines, it brings nothing but bitterness, right? Which that's what the scriptures say, that their venom is the venom of asps. And actually, let's get that, right? So as you ease into chapter 3, right, it's going to talk about the chariots. It's going to talk about the deliverance, Jacob's trouble, right? But it's also going to talk about Esau, his ability to conquer lands, right, leading up to what we call the latter days today, right? So let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 33. And I believe that's 32 actually. Deuteronomy 32 and 31. For the rock is not as our rock, even our enemies themselves being judges. Right? Now that reminds me of the account when Yahushai spoke to particular men, right? To the I believe it was the Pharisees, and he said, let's see if we can get that real quick. Slakia. Matthew chapter 12 and 27. And if I by Beelzebub cast out devils, by whom do your children cast them out? Therefore they shall be your judges. Right? Basically, Yahushua was reproving. Let's see if we can get the context. So this was Yahushua reproving the Pharisees, right? Which what he was saying was basically, right, your children, right, they're the ones that are they're keeping that way, right? the Pharisees relied on their position in the Roman Empire, right? So he said, therefore they shall be your judges. So it's not about, right, so-called seniority, right? It's not about, right, the highest seat in the festival days, right? It's about, right, keeping that way, right, which was, right, given to Abraham, given, you read about that in the book of Genesis, right? The Lord always knew that there would always be a remnant keeping that particular way, right? He said uh, to keep the way of the Lord, right? Now let's see if we can get a commentary on that. I went into that before, um, but let's see. Let's get that in commentary. To keep the way of the Lord. So this is what the Lord is doing in these latter days, just like He did back then, right? The Lord said through Yahushai, right? I can raise up stones uh, onto these men. Uh, um, so don't rely on the fact that you come from that line, right? Because I can raise stones from that line, right? Let's get that in the Book of Genesis. Then we'll go into the commentary. Genesis 18 and 19. For I know him that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, to do justice and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham, that which he has spoken of him. Right? Now let's get that commentary. Matthew 12 and 27. Bible commentary. So it says, earnestness, prayer, fasting, faith, these are always mighty and intensifying the power of will, before which the frenzied soul bows in submission or yields in confidence. These may well have been found among the better and truer Pharisees, which were the children of the Pharisees. Right? The Lord speaks about, I believe that's Psalms chapter 6 or 8, right? That the Lord gave this truth unto babes, right? Um, so it says, our Lord's question indeed requires for its logical validity the admission that the children of the accusers did really cast out demons, and that not by Beelzebub, right? So this is what the remnant are a testimony of, right? Of that way that is being kept, right? You have those that are back in the regeneration keeping that same Pharisee spirit, that over righteous spirit, right? Where's your fringes and right, things like, oh, they don't have a big camp, right? They're not saying nothing, right? Um, so let's get that up. The mouth of babes. Psalms 82, out of the mouth of babes and sucklings thou hast ordained strength because of thy enemies, that thou mightest still the enemy and the avenger. Right? Because those are the enemies are those of our own household as well. Right? These other camps that are not giving you the skinny per se, right? On the word, on biblical prophecy, right? The prophetic breakdowns, right? Let's get that. Matthew 21 and 16. Let's go into the full account. So the account is Yahushua cleanses the temple. Matthew 21:12, and Yahushua went into the temple of God and cast out all them that sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers and the seats of them that sold doves. And he said unto them, It is written, My house shall be the house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of thieves. Verse 14, and the blind and the lame came to him into the temple, and he healed them. And when the chief priests and the scribes saw the wonderful things that he did, the children crying in the temple and saying, Hosanna to the Son of David, they were sore displeased. And he said unto him, Hearest thou what these say? Yahushua saith unto them, Yea, have you never read, Out of the mouth of babes and sucklings thou hast perfected praise? And he left them and went out of the city into Bethany, and he lodged. So that was a pattern, a similitude of things to come, right? Which is the remnant, right? Perfecting that praise, receiving the full understanding, right? Starting with our elders and apostles of Great Millstone, starting with Elder Apostle Tahar and on down, right? So we're giving you, right, the 100% truth, the biblical prophecies, right? We're showing you that we are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of, right? Giving you the various accounts, right? The word as it is written, right? But anyways, Habbakuk chapter 3 and verse 1. Prayer of Habbakuk the prophet upon Shigayanoth Thapala ha Bakwak ha Nabaya'a al Shaganath, which let's go into that real quick. Shaganath, Strong's H7692, which is just basically it says a rambling poem, right? Which it says here the root word is shaga, meaning to go astray, to transgress, right? But the blue letter, that's not what it's talking about. If you go to the last verse, it mentions the same thing, but now it's Nagyana or Nagyanath, Nagyanathya, not Shag. What is it? Salakia. Shagyanath, right? Which the Shah just means something that is, right? So let's look at that word Nagina. It just means to play an instrument, right? Because right, you read I believe the account of King David when the Spirit entered into him, right? He was with the let's see if we can get that. First Samuel 16:13. Okay, so this is the account where Samuel anoints Saul. Let's just get to the point. For Samuel 10 and 5, after that thou shalt come to the hill of God, where is the garrison of the Philistines, and it shall come to pass, when thou art come thither to the city, that thou shalt meet a company of prophets coming down from the high place with a psaltery, meaning they had instruments. Right? The scriptures say, right, when you pray, you're supposed to lift up your hands like a 10-string instrument. Right? So the Lord made, right, your body an instrument, right, for praise, for prophesying, right, uh, right, the voice, right. We read about that in the book of Sirach, right, that the Lord made the various functions of the body, right, to provide its purpose, right. Let's get that real quick. Slovakia. Sirach chapter 39. Let's get that real quick. No, that's not it. Slovakia. Sirach chapter 17. And verse 5, they received the use of the five operations of the Lord. In the sixth place, he imparted them understanding, and in the seventh, speech, an interpretation of the cogitations thereof, counsel, a tongue, eyes, ears, and a heart, gave he them to understand. Withal, he filled them with the knowledge of understanding, and shewed them good and evil. Right? So these are the five operations of the Lord, right? You have counsel, right, which is right, giving out a particular word. A tongue, right, which helps you to discern, right, what you're saying, right. Just like with with an instrument, right. You play certain keys, and they give out certain notes, right. Eyes and ears, right. So your body is a whole instrument. The word, right, that new song, right, has to have a distinct tone, right. We're not here, right. Right. I watch other camps, right, and they're just laughing and ha 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 ha. That's not what it's supposed to be, right. This is serious, right. This is talking about, right, things that will happen, terrible things, right. We're not here. Yeah, we have light moments and all that, right. But the point is that these things, right, we're supposed to give a distinction, like it's like Paul the Apostle said in the book of Romans, right. Unless you give it distinction, you cannot know what the sound is. Right? Let's get that real quick. Salaki, it might be Corinthians. First Corinthians 14 and 7. Except things without life-giving sound, whether pipe or harp, except they give a distinction in the sounds, how shall it be known what is piped or harped? So it is basically what Habbakuk was doing, right? Just like the prophets of old, they had psalteries, right? They um, made when they were prophesying, for example, when Jeremiah and the false prophet, right? They had what is it called? They had props. Sometimes they had instruments, right? In order to show, to make a point in the things that they were speaking on, right? So 1 Samuel 10 and 5. After that thou shalt come to the hill of God, where is the garrison of the Philistines, and it shall come to pass, when thou art come hither to the city, that thou shalt meet a company of prophets coming down from the high place with a psaltery and a tabret and a pipe and a harp before them, and they shall prophesy. And the Spirit of the Lord will come upon thee, and thou shalt prophesy with them, shalt be turned to another man. Right? Let's get that in the book of Jeremiah. Let's get that real quick. Jeremiah chapter 38. Salakia. That's not it. Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 28. Jeremiah 28 and verse 1. And it came to pass in the same year, in the beginning of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah, in the 4th year, and in the 5th month, that Hananiah the son of Azur the prophet, which was of Gibeon, spake unto me in the house of the Lord, in the presence of the priests and of all the people, saying, Thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, saying, I have broken the yoke of the king of Babylon. Within 2 full years I will bring again into this place all the vessels of the Lord's house that Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon took away from this place and carried them to Babylon. Right, so this was Hananiah, right, which was a false prophet, right? Jeremiah 28:10. Then Hananiah the prophet took the yoke from off the prophet Jeremiah's neck and brake it. And Hananiah spake in the presence of all the people, saying, Thus saith the Lord, even so will I break the yoke of Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon from the neck of all nations within the space of 2 full years. And the prophet Jeremiah went his way. Right, so the prophet Hananiah was prophesying deceits. Right, the Lord stirred him up to prophesy a false prophecy. Right, but the point is that he had Jeremiah, the prophet Jeremiah had a yoke, and he broke it off, and it was part of that part of what he was bringing out, right? Which the point is that in Habbakuk chapter 3 and verse 1, that word Shaganath, right? Like I said, let's look at it in the blue letter. Salakia. Blue letter. That word nagan means to strike strings, to play on a string instrument, right? To beat a tune with the fingers, right? To make music, right? Right, so it's basically just talking about Prophet Habbakuk may have been, right, whatever he was playing, he may have been snapping his fingers. It doesn't say, right, and prophesying, right. Thus saith the Lord, right. This is gonna go down, right. Or he may have had a drum, just right, small drum, just beating on it while he was prophesying. It was part of what he was bringing out, right, in order to create an atmosphere to push a particular feeling that he was feeling, right, which is why it says Shagyawan means a rambling poem or aberration. Let's look that up real quick. So we can only speculate, right? A characteristic that deviates from the normal type. Habbakuk chapter 3 and verse 2. O Lord, I have heard your report. I have seen, O Lord, to your work. In the midst of the years, revive it. In the midst of the years, make it known. In anger, remember mercy. Which reads, Yahweh Shemaitaya, Shemaika, Yara'ah, Taya, Yahweh Payalka, Bakwarab Shunyam, Chayayawa, Bakwarab Shunyam, Dayai, Baragaz Raham, Tazakar. Let's look at that word, Ragaz. Basically, the prophet Habbakuk was receiving visions, and he saw the time of Jacob's trouble happening. Right? He said, "In trouble, remember mercy." Right? Revive thy work. We are the ones reviving that work. Right? Making known the work that the Lord is going to perform in all the earth. Strong's H 7267. Ragaz. Commotion, tumult, raging. Agitation, excitement, raging, turmoil. Basically, it just means turmoil, right? It says provoke, quake, rage, shake, trouble. Just means like turmoil in a sense, right? Habbakuk 3:3. God from Teman. God came from Teman, and uh, and his holiness from Mount Paran, Salah, to cover the heavens with his glory and his praise, which filled the earth, which filleth the earth, or fill the earth, right? Says Allah Matayaman Yaba'a Wa Kwadash Mahar Pa'aran Salah Kasa Shemayim Hawadwa Wata Halathwa Mala'a Ha'rataza. Because it's talking about since the days of old, right? The ancient days, right? When the Lord appeared, right? To the Israelites, right? Delivered them, right? From Egypt and sent his help from the heavenly host in past times, right? Habakkuk 3:4, and brilliant and glittering like the light, which was from the horns of his hand, which was unto him. Wanaga ka'awar thahaya quaranium mayadwa lawa, because the word naga means glittering or brilliance, right? And there was the hiding of his strength. Washam Chabiawan Aiza, right? Because that word Chab actually means lap, which it's another way to say the hiding of his strength. It would actually read, and there was a lap, was lapped his might. Let's look at that word Habakkuk 3:4. Az, meaning might, strength, might, which is talking about the chariots, right? The horn signifies strength, right? That horns, that brightness was the laser beams coming out of the chariot, right? Because this is how the Lord inscribed the laws upon stone, right? Let's get that in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy 33:2, and he said, the Lord came from Sinai and rose up from Seir unto them. He shined forth from Mount Paran, and he came with 10,000s of saints. From his right hand went a fiery law for them, right? Because you had Yahushua there, right? The angel of the Lord which guided them, right? The chariots were there, right? And that beam is what inscribed the tablets, right? It was laser it was laser inscriptions, right? Which were placed upon tablets given to Moses to present to the children of Israel, right? Which is why the scriptures say that they were written with the finger of God, right? The Most High didn't come down and put this finger on the tablets and, okay, I'm going to type it in, No. The chariots did it, right? Which is why it says in verse 3, he came from Mount Paran, from Teman, which is the land of Esau, of Edom, which is a place in Edom. Right. So this is kind of going back into time. Right. Now verse 4. Habakkuk 3 and 4. It's like it. Clicked on the wrong one. That's talking about that brilliant light, right? When the laws were inscribed upon stone, but is also talking about the strength of the chariots, which is going to be through the laser beams, right? Yahushua spoke about what? Those that will not serve me, come hither, bring them hither and slay them before me. That didn't happen back then. It's talking about in the latter days, right? The 2/3, right? That deny the Lord and Savior that bought them. When the chariots return, they're gonna get zapped. They're going to take the chip and they're going to eat a missile, right? If they don't die in the FEMA camps, if they don't die in Jacob's trouble, right? One way or another, the Lord is going to get them, right? Habakkuk chapter 3 verse 5. That's if the Edomites don't get them, because when all hell breaks loose, right, you're going to have convoys, or you're gonna have the Coast Guard troops, right? They're gonna be looking for people fleeing from the chipping stations, right? You might run into a group of Edomites, right? They might blow your damn shoulder off, and then put you on the damn stick and hang you up, right, in the middle of the street. Or you might run into a group of Hamites. They might slice you up and eat you, right? Because it's going to be a famine during the time of Jacob's trouble, right? That's if they don't take the charagma, right? Eventually they're going to take it, right? And whether they take it or not, the other nations are going to be destroyed, right? But there's some that are not going to take it. Right, they're going to be pillaging others, and one house invading another, right? And then they're going to eat the missile, right? So it doesn't mean, right, both small and great, rich and poor that receive the charagma, doesn't mean everyone's going to take it. Oh, we have no choice, but the majority of the people will. But there are those that are going to rebel, right? They're going to loot and right, plunder houses. They're going to go from house to house, right? So that's what it's talking about, right? Habakkuk 3 and 5. Before him walked the pestilence, and he brought out burning from his feet. Or Salaki, and there came out burning to his feet, right? Because the feet of the chariot is what's under it, right? As the chariots march, as the chariots go, the pestilence is already here. But you're gonna have more pestilence. You're gonna have more plagues. You're gonna have, right, the fires coming, right? You see that you're witnessing that in Hawaii, right? So it says Lapan Yawa Yalak, the bar, Wayataza'a Rashap. Rashap means to burn, right? Just like Sharap, it just means the same thing. La Regal Yawa, burning unto his feet, right? Because that's what's going to happen. When you see the chariots, you're going to see the missiles, you're going to see a fire coming, right? Habakkuk 3 and 6. Standing up and measuring the earth, which is seen, and the remnant of the nations, or Salakia, which he has seen, and the remnant of the nations. Salakia, Habakkuk 3 and 6. So standing and measuring the earth, which is seen, meaning the known inhabited earth, and the remnant of the nations, and they are scattered, uh, and he scatters the mountains, even brings them low, the hills of old, right? Which it reads, Imad Wayamadad, Arataza Ra'ah, Wayathar Gawayim, Wayatha, Pataza, Tazawa, Haharya Ad Shachwa, Gabayath Iwalam. Basically, the Lord standeth and he measureth the earth, right? Which is seen, right? The Lord is going to be seen when he returns, right? Through Yahushai, right? All the tribes of the earth will see it, will mourn, right? And the remnant of the nations, right? They're going to see it, right? And he's going to scatter them, right? Onto which is why it says, and he scatters the mountains, even brings low the hills of old, right? Because he did that back then, right? When the chariots appear, when the Lord sends the heavenly hosts for help, right? This is what happened. The mountains move, the earthquakes, right? The Lord, you got to remember in the book of Numbers, right? In that rebellion of Korath, what did the Lord do? He rent asunder. He opened the earth, right? And there was a trembling and swallowed up those that rebelled. And then you read at the end of the account, he sent fire down, and it consumed many of the people that rebelled, which was the chariots, right? Shooting down the lasers, right? So this is just talking about the Lord's bite, right? The nation seeing it, right? Them being scattered, just like the days of old. Pharaoh and his chariots, when the Lord sent an angel to smite the camp of the Assyrians, and various other accounts, right? He that goeth of old, right? Unto him, right? Meaning, since he has done that of old, right? Which reads, ha layakath, iwalam lawa, right? Because that word madad meaning to measure, imad to stand, yathar. Let's look at that real quick. So that word yathar means excess, right? Figuratively, to loosen, right? To undo, right? So the Lord stood and he measured the earth, which is seen, meaning, right? Everyone saw it, right? And he undid the nations. So the Slakia, that was my mistake. And they were and he scattered the hills, even brought them low, shachwa, right? Which means pit as well. Gabayath, the hills of old, right? So when the Lord shows up, right, there's always the mountains are shaken, the hills, the earth is moved, right? His goings are of old unto him, which is why it says Hal Yakath Iwalam Lawa. Habbakuk 3 and 7. Instead of in its place iniquity, I beheld the tents of Cushan. They trembled. They were shaken. Or Salakia, let's go to the blue letter. In its place, vanity I saw in the tents of Cushan, right? He made to tremble the curtains of the land of Midian. That word is curtains. Aratazah Madayan, right? Because, right, this is what, this just, again, it's just bringing the nations into this verse, right? Showing that the Lord showed the prophet Habbakuk the vanity that these heathens would still be in the latter days, right? And he saw the destruction coming throughout the earth, right? He saw the trembling in the curtains of the land of Midian, right? That just means their habitations, right? Tachat awan ra'ayathaya achalia kawashan ya ragazwan ya rayath Ratazah Madayan. Habbakuk 3 and 8. Was he upon the rivers, which I believe that is the word for rivers, Salakia. Yeah. It says, was he displeased? Was he upon the rivers angry, the Lord? Because that word hara means to wax hot, right? As in to boil up in anger, right? Haba Naharyim Hara Yahweh. Lo, upon the rivers, lo, or Salakia, if upon the rivers was your anger, I'm ba Naharyim Abka, right? That word I means if, right? Or as in was, right? If upon the sea was your wrath, I'm bayam ibarath ka, because thou rodest upon your horses, right? And your chariots of salvation, right? Kayatha rakab al sawasyaka, marakabathyaka, Yeshaya, right? Because the Lord, when the destruction comes, right? Yeah, the earth is going to be, right? It's going to be a lot of destruction, but the Lord doesn't have beef with the rivers, right? It wasn't against the sea, right? So Habakkuk saw the rivers being moved, the earth being moved, right? He saw the chariot, he saw the fathership, and he saw the countless and countless chariots of the holy host, which are called the chariots of salvation, right? Habakkuk 3 and 9. Which is Arya, which says nudity, bare naked. which is talking about it says this actually means her cities, right? Ayar city, Arya cities plural. The ha makes it feminine. Her cities were uncovered, right? Iwar, like I said, Iwar. Sometimes you'll read Ira, to be uncovered. Ira meaning to be naked. Her cities were made naked with your bow. Washath Ka, the Lord's bow is what? The modern day bow is the nuclear silo, right? The arrow is the ICBM missile, because that's what's coming to America, Babylon the Great. The Lord is going to make bare and barren this bloody city, the bloody land, right? So it says, to the oaths of the tribes which have uttered, right? Amar means to utter, right? Shabayath, Matath, Amar, Salah, right? Because that's what we're speaking now. We're speaking destruction. We're speaking judgment coming to 2/3 of our people, you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans, which are the Israelites. We're speaking downfall of Esau, Edom, the other nations, right? The oath of the tribes, right? Which is the Lord's word, right? Which the Lord swore that He would give the kingdom of heaven to Israel, right? This goes back to the oath given to Abraham. The Lord always spoke about those preserving away, those that would be that He would keep unto Himself, right? So it says the rivers were broken asunder unto the earth. Nacharath, Tha Bakwai, Aratazah. Bakwai means to break asunder, right? Or to cleave asunder. Because that's what's going to happen, right? For example, you watch Dragon Ball Z, you see the characters fighting. Slakia. And let's see if I can right. So you see right, Dragon Ball Z. You see characters fighting. You see powering up, and as they're powering up, you see that the surrounding areas are breaking apart, right? The land is breaking apart, and right, mountains are broken apart because there's too much of that energy there, right? So when the chariots show up, right, all that tumult, all the lasers and the ICBM missiles, right? There's going to be so much impact on the earth. You're going to see rivers, right, being maybe a nuke hit a river, and that's going to crack and turn into other little rivers, and right, going to be all type of destruction, right? So, Habbakuk 3:10. So it says, at your sight, they let me just go to the blue letter, cause so it says at your sight they were moved or trembled, right? You have that word hawal again, which could mean sand, but it also mean to spin, or right, to be shaken, trembled, right? The idea is in that of spinning, to turn around, to twist, right? Hawal, to twist, to whirl, right? So at your sight, they They were moved, or you could just say trembled. The mountains. It says, the storms of the waters passed by. Ra'aka, Yachayalwa, Haryam, Zaram, Mayam, Ibar. Because that word Zaram means storm. Shower, storm, tempest. It means storm. Right? Storm of rain, storm. Right? So, like I said, when you go into the book of Habbakuk, you gotta, in order to read it and understand it, you gotta have a pretty good idea of certain Hebrew words, right? So it says, at your sight, they were shaken, the mountains, right? The storm of waters passed by, right? It says uttered, but that word nathan means to give or placed, was given unto the deep, right? So when the Lord appears, right, through his only begotten Son, Yahushai, right, the mountains are going to be moved, right? There's going to be tempest in the water, storms and tempest, right? The deep waters are going to right, there's going to be, right, tsunamis, right? Because there's going to be conflict in the earth, right? Esau's armies, the chariots, the armies of the earth. So it says, it's given the deep its voice. Nathan, Thawam, Kwalwa, right? To lift up his hands on high, right? Nathan Thawam Kwalwa, Rawam Yadyawa Nasha'a. Right, so there's going to be huge waves, right? When the Lord gives his voice, right, you're going to have the holy angels, Michael the archangel, Yahushai, the chariots. You're going to hear the chariots moving, however they sound. Right, Yahushai may be doing like a battle cry. Right, it's going to be scary as hell, right? It's going to be like nothing you have ever seen, right? He may be right. I always bring this out. Basically, it's something like this. Right. So here's Yahushai. Kind of flying from long distance. Right. He may be like a giant. Right. That's not a cape. That's, I'm trying to show like his feet. Right. And this is the earth. Right. And this is right. This is the fathership. Right. Because he can do what he wants. He can make himself maybe. Because the scripture says that he's going to be very tall. Right. And he could make himself from that little speck fly above the earth and just make himself huge, like a giant. Lift up his hands. However, it's gonna happen, right? Something like this. Here's the earth. Right, here's the fathership. Here's the chariots. Right. When you hop out of the father ship, you're going to see a giant figure, right? Here's America Babylon the Great, right? Maybe when he hops out the father ship, he's going to turn into this giant figure, right? And this is what if you're in America Babylon the Great looking up, right? Let's just say here's a person looking up. They're just gonna see, right, a giant figure, a giant child. Right, just kind of hovering above, you know. Right, it's gonna be crazy. Now, you got what's called an X-Men. They're called Sentinels. It's gonna kind of look like this, right? It's gonna be, right, Yahushai. There's another one where they show them like flying over. Right, he's gonna look like this, right? Scripture say he's gonna be taller than all the rest, right? He's not gonna actually have beams coming out of his hand, or he might, right? We don't know. But those beams coming out of the horns, the strength coming out of his hands is actually talking about the chariot, right? So it says Habbakuk 3:11, the sun, the moon, they stand in their habitation for a light. Let's go to the blue letter. It's kind of confusing. Habbakuk 3:11. Sun, the moon stand in their habitation. That word's Zabal means habitation, right? Habitat, which is what you get the word Zebulon, right? Which means habitation. Habitation of ships, right? So it says Shamash, Yarach, Imad, Zabalah, right? For a light. Your arrows, they went onto glittering thunder. Barak means thunder. Like unto a glittering thunder went forth your spear, right? Chanyath, which means javelin, right? Spear is actually Kwayan, meaning spear. Or weapon, which is where Cain gets his name. but it actually means spear. So it says La Awar Hatazayaka Yahalakwa La Naga Barak Hanyatka. It says, in indignation thou marchest through the land, upon anger, in anger thou didst thrush the heathen. Bazayam tha tazaad, meaning to march. Arataza ba'ap tha dawash gawayim, up meaning anger. Dawash meaning to thresh. Right, so that's what the chariots are gonna do, right? The holy angels, Yahushai, right? Habbakuk, Slakia. Habbakuk 3 and 13. They went out for salvation unto your people, for salvation unto your anointed, to smite the head of the house of the wicked, to uncover unto the foundation, even unto the neck, Salah. Right? Yatazaath la shaya la yashai, Aimka la yashai, Atha mashayachka, Machatazath, Machatazath, Ra'ash, Mabayath, Rashai, Irath, Yasad, Ad Tazawa'ar, Salah. Right? Because he's going to come and wound the head over many nations. Right? Simple as that. Right? Habakkuk 3 and 14. Whew. Now that's a little graphic right there. The translation says, you will crack the enemy's skull with your bludgeon. Blown away shall be his warriors, whose delight is to crush me suddenly, to devour a pauper in his ambush. Which it actually reads Nakwabath, meaning to pierce. Thou didst pierce upon the staves the head of his villages. Right, meaning the staves are like right, a fence, right, or a beam that keeps up a structure, right? Because the ICBM missiles, right, the chariots, they're gonna pierce through everything, right? The villages, right, the dams, everything, right? Nakwabath, Bamata Yawa, Ra'ash, Parazwa. They were as a tempest. Or Salakia, I think Sayar is tempest. Let me get that really quick. Check my notes. Yeah, tempest, right? Which says, they came out as a tempest to scatter me. Yasayar wa laha payataza naya. Right? Because that's what's gonna happen in Jacob's trouble, right? They're gonna be looking for Jake, Esau, the nations, right? And they're just gonna be in survival mode, right? their delight al yataza thumb, right? Because the root is ilatazah or ilaz, meaning to extol or exaltation, right? Or it's just another way to say delight. They scattered, or Salakia, they were as a tempest who scattered me. Their delight was, right, like unto kamwa, to devour. La akal, the meek, anya, in secret, right? Bama sathar, right? Because that's what the heathens do. They delight, right? To oppress, to be Israel, to be a thorn in Israel's side, right? So the Lord made them to be that way, right? To devour the needy in secret, like it says in the King James version. It says, thou didst tread upon the sea with your horses, right, to heap up many waters, which the chariots are doing that, right? But the armies of the earth are going to do that as well, right? And even Esau, right, which you go into the horses of Revelation, right? That's kind of twofold because the Lord is causing these horses to play each their particular part. You have the white horse, Yahushai, the chariots. You have the red horse, Esau, his armies, him conquering lands, right? And then you have the other particular horses which serve their own purpose, right? The black horse, which represented captivity, right? Dearth. The pale horse, which represents calamity, right? Which is when all these things come to a full end, right? The grand finale, like they say. So it says, Darakath Bayam Sawasyaka Chamar Mayam Rabiam, which that's mainly talking about the chariots, right? They're gonna glide upon the waters, right? You're gonna see giant waves, right? Through many waters. Habbakuk 3:16. I've heard and quaked my bowels to the voice of the sound. Salakia, let me just get the blue letter. So it says, I heard and trembled my belly to the sound of the unto its sound, to the sound quivered my lips. There entered rottenness in my bones. Shemai Taya Wata Ragaz Batanya Laqual Tazalalwa Shapathya Yaba'a Raquab, meaning rottenness, Itazamya, meaning in my bones. Because that word Tazalal, right, means to quiver or a ringing sound, right? The idea of a vibration, or to tingle, right? So if you want to say a bell, it would be ma tazalal. Which is this is talking about Jacob's trouble, right? And Habbakuk, he heard of these things happening, right? He saw Jacob's trouble. he saw the newscast, right, and right, he saw Jake sitting there, and the newscast announcing Jake martial law. Right, he was there. The Lord placed him in the midst of Jacob's trouble in the vision. His lips were quivering. Right, he saw unspeakable things. Right, that's what's gonna happen. They're gonna be taking women, pillaging them. Right, you might have people just walking around with axes and just hacking at people. Right. Um, so it says, and in myself I trembled unto that which I might rest unto the day of distress, Tazarah, Wathachathiah, Ragaz, Ashar, Anawach, La Yawam, Tazarah, that which means a day of trouble, unto the ascendant up unto the people in which he will invade them. Right? La Ilath, La'im, Yagad, Nawa. Right? Because that word God, or Gadah, Gadad, meaning troops, assembling troops to penetrate, to attack, invade, which is what the chariots are going to do. Right? And the troops, the Lord's troops, is also the armies of the earth. Right? So the Lord is going to make Jacob's trouble happen. Right? Habbakuk 3:17. Because the fig will not bloom, and there will not be a produce upon the vines. There will be a refraining from the yielding of olives. Kaya ta'ana la'a ta'parach wa'ayan yabawal bagapanyam kachash ma'aisha zayath. And the fields will not produce food. Wa shadamta. Let me check that real quick. Wa shadamwath. Wa shadamwath la'a aisha a call, and the fields will not produce food. Because that's what's happening now, right? Esau is producing engineered. He's going to produce engineered famines, right? This is what's coming to the earth, right? And it says gazar, meaning to cut off. Will be cut off from the fold, right, or from the pens, right, or from the stalls. Salakia, from the fold of the flock, right? Gazar makala, because that word kala means to restrain, or to retain, right? It's just talking about fold of flocks, meaning a group of herds, or the flocks, right? So the flocks will be cut off because the missiles are going to hit it and they're going to be destroyed, right? Nuclear fallout is not going to. There's not going to be any production of the fields yielding its crops, right? If the mountains are filled with the blood of the slain, right, there's not going to be an increase in produce, right? That's going to happen in the destruction, and there will not be a herd in its stalls, Wa ayan bakwar ba rapathium. And this is what's happening now, basically, right? Which is why you have cattle being slaughtered and right farm chicken farms being destroyed, right, and things of that sort. So the stalls, that word is rapathium, because that word rapa'a means the root word is to heal or to sustain, right, or to leave idle, right, which is what you do in the stalls, right? You put the animals in the herd in the stalls and you feed them there and they're idle. You don't really have them move around as much. Habbakuk 3:18, and I in the Lord I will rejoice. There you have that word ilaz, or sometimes ilatazah, to exalt. I will be joyful, gayal, to be glad, joy, be joyful, right? A alazah, a gayala, ba alahaya, yeshaya, in the God of my salvation. And that's what we're doing now, right? We say Tawadi Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, right, for this truth, right? And our elders and those that came before us and labored in this word, right? Because without them, and first and foremost, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, right, none of this would be possible, right? Habbakuk 3:19, the Lord God is my strength, and he will place to my feet, like unto the hind's feet, Yahweh Adanya, Chayalya, Wayesham, Regalia, Ka Ayalath, and upon my high places he will cause me to tread, Wa'al, Bamathia, Yadaraknaya, to the overseer or chief singer, La Manatazach, Natazach, right? Chief musician, overseer. Upon my basically he is saying upon my singing or upon my prophesying, right? Because the Lord is that overseer, right? Gives the divine inspiration, right? But that's just a fancy way of him saying that, right? So it says, Banagan ya nathya, Bashem Mashayak Yahushai. So this is Habakkuk chapter 3. Going into the Hebrew, this brother Yatazadak Hero Israel. And as always, Lord willing, you were edified. Giving all honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Habbakuk. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Kwam Yasha Allah, Abad Babal, and Shalom.